Hello everybody and welcome to Suburban Homesteader Wyoming / Arizona. Here's our setup for our flower and herb tower. Bought some Patio Plus potting soil. This is by Kellogg. It's a family owned company and I've really liked it. I've used it a lot of times in Wyoming. Then we got a combination of different kinds of flowers and herbs. Joe pounded a 6-foot piece of rebar into the ground. It's still about 4 inches up from the ground, but I'm going to put my tallest plants in this top one, and I wanted to be able to tie them off if I needed to, because one of the plants is basil, and basil, when it gets tall, has a tendency to lean over, and so I thought I would use the height there to make it so that it wouldn't be flopping all over the place. Here's the potting soil. It's by Kellogg Organics. And you can use it on flowers, on vegetables, outdoor pots, and it's safe for pets, people, and the planet. Here's the plants I picked out. Now this is an oregano, and it's a spreading Italian oregano. So as it is in the pot, it will cascade down. So I'll have to know that when I plant something underneath of it. Rosemary is going to go on top because it becomes a big plant. Here's the basil that I told you about that will go on the top one too. And this is a sweet basil. The other thing that I'm going to do in the third part is I'm actually going to just put a Swiss chard in there. I have 2 different kinds of thyme. They'll both cascade. One's an English and one's a lemon thyme. The other herb that I got is garden sage. A lot of uses. Now for flowers, I love pansies. So I got a 6-pack of the orange pansies and a 6-pack of the bluish purple pansies. The last flower that I got, some people call them Sweet Williams. They make little tiny flowers, beautiful, not too tall, perfect plant to put in our tower. Now I disassembled it because it's easier to fill your container when they're not already stacked. And I'm just going to start dumping this in. This has a lot of fibrous material and vermiculite, perlite in there so that there's a lot of good drainage. And I'm going to fill them up and then we'll put the plants in. Make sure that you crumble it up when you put it in if there's any pieces of the potting soil. Now that is pretty good. And if I need to put some around when I firm it around the plants, I'll do that. This first one I'm going to put the Sweet Williams. And you always want to kind of just break up those roots. Make it a little bit looser. Now if this was completely root bound, kind of like it is down here, and you can't work it out, take your knife and just slice down. It will stimulate and make the roots grow. So I'm pushing that aside and I'm going to firm that in together. It's easy to take it from the center and we can just refill that. Press down so there's good contact and we'll go all the way around. So here we have the first of our 3 plants all in. I firmed them with my fingers because I want some good contact. And when I get all of it done, that's when I'll water it. I won't water it beforehand. Now, if this isn't level, because ground isn't necessarily level, I just stuffed a couple rocks underneath this side over here. Unlike the Sweet Williams, this is too much of a mass of roots. So I take my little pocket knife and I cut it down. And there's plenty of roots inside there, and all these little roots, it'll stimulate it to grow, send out more roots. And it's an easy way when you get flowers that are in 4-packs, 6-packs that are really root bound, because by the time they get to your nursery during your growing season, a lot of times they're like this because they want to show some flowers. And so they've been in their little cells for a long time. This is our first layer of herbs, and I have to decide how I want it to cascade. So I want to have this flower still have a lot of space and the flower below it. So I'm going to tilt it. I can either tilt it this way or this way, but I think on this one I'm going to tilt it towards me. I'm making sure I've firmed it in all the way around, and I've actually leaned it slightly outward when I put it in, and we just are making our hole. I'm making sure that I put a tag in there, and I'm playing with the roots. I'm teasing them out, and because this will cascade somewhat, not as much as the thyme will, but it will some, I'm leaning it slightly at an angle. Then I can bring the soil back in and tuck around it, and I can grab more soil as I need it. So there's still a lot of space, but that next one, that next layer is going to go on there. But I will fill this all in with soil. We're on our last one. And so this is the basil. Now, things to remember about doing a tower when you're placing it. It has to have sun different times all through the day. Why? Because this side needs sun, over here needs sun, over here needs sun. So unless you're planning on rotating it over and over again, you need to have some place that it has a lot of sun. Now, can you rotate them? You can just turn them around. This is going to get the earliest morning sun, and that's the basil, and it's probably the most tender out of the basil, the sage, and the rosemary. The rosemary is going to get the hottest, but it's a tough plant. So I'm putting that in there, firming it around. And our last one is sage. I thought I was going to have room to put some Swiss chard in here too, but I only put one plant per little cell, little section, and that just took up all the plants. And so the Swiss chard will just go in the garden by the Swiss chard that's grown by seed. Now I'm going to water this in good, but at first I have to go over help my mom. She says she needs my mussels. So I'm just going to let this sit for the few minutes, and then I'll be back and I'm going to water it. So we're giving it a good soak. You're better off giving it too much water than too little water, that very first soak. And there's drainage holes, so we don't have to worry about that. But make sure you get every single one. I gave it a good soak. I'm going to let it just sit. As the soil compacts itself a little bit, I might have to come back and add a little more soil around the different plants. But it is going to be a fun little container. I only used one of the bags of the potting soil. I still have the other two. And I didn't use any of the Swiss chard, so that's going in the garden. And I'm now going to plant my beans and corn in those containers. But it is a fun little tower to do. A garden tower is a great use of space where you can get a lot of plants in a little tiny area. And it's very attractive looking. Like, subscribe, share with the world, ring that bell so you know every time I have a video. I'll see you next time.